Hi, so just like that long video that I did on economics, on all the things that you need to know about economics for economics motions, today I want to make a very long video about journalism. The slideshow that I am lecturing off of is 50 pages long, so this lecture might be quite intensive and packed with all the information that you need to understand journalism in the context of debate. A lot of journalism motions have to do with modern journalism versus traditional journalism and how journalism has been shifting in the form factor and in the way in which we consume journalism over the past 20 so years. We'll start with the evolution of journalism and go from that to talking about editors and talking about reporters and about all the other forms of journalism that exist today. But okay, before I get ahead of myself, I kind of want to talk a little bit about what journalism looked like before and what it looks like today. So there are around 4 different eras of journalism. There is the print era, which started in the 1600s and went into the 1900s. This was when the printing press was invented, and we were able to make copies of the sort of paper very quickly. So with the invention of the printing press, we had the print era. And then after the print era, we invented the radio and the television. And this started the broadcast era from the 1920s to the 1980s. And very often, there were a lot of trusted anchors, people such as Walter Cronkite, and journalism very often dominated the discourse in the public, but there were not a lot of publications. There were just a few that were very well trusted. And then with the invention of the internet, we had something called the digital era, where we started distributing our news mostly through online outlets and blogs, such as the online New York Times website and other forms like that. So the era that we're in today is the social era with the invention of social media. And journalism takes in the form of podcasts, citizen journalism, social media journalism, and even the big journalist outlets, they all post on social media, such as Instagram and on TikTok. And so this is the era of journalism that we're in today. You'll notice that within these 4 eras of journalism, the print era, the broadcast era, the digital era, and the social era, every era of journalism was preceded by a new invention. So with the invention of the printing press, or the invention of television or the radio. So you'll notice that every era that began for journalism was preceded by the invention of a form of communication. So in the print era, it was the invention of the printing press. In the broadcast era, it was the invention of the radio and television. In the digital era, it was the advent of the internet. And with the social era, the era we're in today, it was the invention of social media. And so while we're going through all of these eras and while we're transitioning into the social era right now, what you will notice is that a lot of traditional news outlets have been going down in popularity. They're being consumed less and less, and especially by Gen Z and Gen A, people who are a little bit younger. Majority of those people sort of exclusively get their news off of the new modern outlets such as social media and online and on websites. So while we're moving from the internet era to the social era, a lot of these traditional news outlets have been going down in popularity. But something that's quite important to know is that even though the youth today, the Gen Z and Gen A, they mostly consume most of their media off of social media and get the news from there, majority of people who are older, people who are age 55 and above, still do consume the most of their journalism from the television. So from major broadcasting corporations such as CNN and other large organizations. But what this means for journalism, and these ideas play into debates quite a lot, is that one, it's the speed of platforms and the speed in which we get news about what's happening around the world has gone up drastically. So if something happens halfway across the world, I, as a person living in Korea, might know about news that is happening in America like right away. So the speed at which we get our news is really quick, which also means that the longevity or the length of how long a story is popular is also a lot shorter now. But the second thing is that now that a lot of media and journalism has sort of become less centralized and more decentralized, there's a lot less trust in journalism these days. And that has to do with a lot of factors, but that's a big discussion in a lot of debates. Okay, we're going to talk about news organizations first, because I think this is a really big part of journalism motions. So in general, there are about 4 different types of news organizations. 1 is public and state-funded news organizations. 2 is state-controlled news organizations. 3 is private corporate news organizations. And lastly, the independent and grassroots news organizations. And we're going to go into each of these and what makes them different and look at some examples of each. So public and state-run media, or public state-funded media to be exact, is very different than state-controlled media. State-funded media is an organization, an outlet that is paid for by the taxpayers, that is sort of paid for by government funds, and they have a lot less reliance on having to fund themselves through advertising and through other means of making money. So 3 very good examples of state-funded media are the BBC from the United Kingdom, NHK from Japan, and CBC from Canada. What is the reason and what is the benefit of a state-funded broadcasting organization? Well, the benefit is that now that they don't have to make their own money through advertising or other means, they don't have to care as much about whether their stories will sell. And there's a less likelihood of bias for corporate interests or bias for different things that might make them more popular in other people's eyes. So very often state-funded media is quite trustworthy. This is why a lot of people around the world trust the BBC to say the right thing or have accurate information. The second type of news organization is state-controlled. Controlled media is not just funded by the state, but they are told directly by the state what to print and how to print their stories. So for example, a very good example of a state-controlled media is Russia Today, RT. And RT is always going to have stories that are furthering Russia's interests and biased against anyone who might be an enemy of Russia and biased for any country or group that is for Russia. So it promotes sort of mostly propaganda, and this is why state-controlled media is not really trustworthy and not a good source. Another really important type of news organization are private news organizations. So private or corporate news organizations. Very often these are sell stocks, they're on the stock market, they are really large organizations. There's quite a few in America, such as Fox News or CNN or MSNBC. These major organizations have to make money. They're for-profit businesses, and so they care a lot about subscribers, or they care a lot about advertising revenue, and they care a lot about all these different means of making money. Of course, they sometimes have quite different ways of making money. For example, the New York Times mostly relies on subscriptions, so they have millions of people who pay them money every month. But in organizations such as Fox News or CNN operate a lot off of sort of getting advertising money, and the fact that they are private doesn't mean that they cannot be trusted, but the fact that they have to make money does change the editorial decisions and the trustworthiness of the organization. So for example, Fox News, one of the largest private news organizations in America, they have to care a lot about sort of audience retention and making sure that people are watching them a lot so that they can make a lot of money off of advertising. And that might change the type of stories that they print. Same thing with CNN or MSNBC. The last form of journalism is something that's quite new in the social era, and that's independent and grassroots journalism. There are different types of independent and grassroots journalism. For example, like a child who lives in Sudan who uploads a video onto TikTok, that is a form of independent journalism, right? But another form of independent journalism are people who, like journalists who used to work at news organizations, who have made podcasts or who have made Substacks. Basically, they print stories online so that their subscribers can watch and read them. This type of journalism has a lot of advantages and challenges. One of the advantages of independent journalism is that they can choose their own stories and can become quite, become an expert in one field that they really want to talk to the world about. The challenges is that very often independent journalists do not have a lot of resources, they don't have a huge body of editors, they don't have a lot of fact checkers, and so independent journalists can have a wide array of trustworthiness or getting their facts straight. It really depends on the journalist. But independent journalism basically is not tied to a corporation or an organization that does journalism. Very good examples of independent journalists are people like Glenn Greenwald or Matt Taibbi, or even people who have large political podcasts and such. Lastly, I kind of want to talk about social media journalism. This is probably one of the largest forms of journalism that is really important today. So basically this takes the form of citizen live streams or photos taken by and videos taken by people's iPhones and uploaded onto Twitter or TikTok or Instagram, just to show us what the world looks like on a day-to-day. Sometimes this takes place in forms of well-edited YouTube videos, or it takes place in the form of like really long tweets on X. But basically, social media journalism is the act of taking what you see as an individual and putting it online for others to see. The reason why social media journalism is so important in debate and just in the world today is that the majority of big movements and riots and protests are documented by social media journalists, right? So for example, there was recently a large protest that happened in Nepal against the corruption that was by the Nepalese government. And majority of that was reported by the young people who were on the ground, who were actually part of the protests. And this has sort of been a large trend in creating big movements around the world. Another good example would be what happened in Hong Kong, or even coverage of what is happening in the war in Ukraine. A lot of it is just footage that people on the ground are uploading onto the web. And I think the benefit of social media journalism, and something you can argue for in debate, is that the speed and the access is faster than any other form of journalism, right? People see something and they upload it. The other thing is that it's sometimes can be very sort of realistic and sort of in the moment. If you are a protester inside a protest and you're filming it, it is your experience and what you're putting online, and it's nothing filtered, nothing edited. So there are benefits to social media journalism, but there are also a lot of cons, and I think we'll discuss that a little bit later.